music, stories, and more. You're listening to Heartbeat Radio, a program by Able Arts Work. What do you play from to do for yourself?
Sure. My name is Patrick Groupie, and I'm the Executive Director at Harbor Regional Center.
Oh, and how long have you been director of?
At Harbor, I've been there I just completed 4 years in October 1st, actually. And so I've been in the Regional Center system for over 25 years, though.
If you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, what would that be?
That's a hard question. I like so many things. I think steak. I love a good steak.
Steak.
I could eat it for breakfast. I could have it for lunch. I could have it for dinner, and you can just do it different ways and make it a good variety.
Well, would you like me to tell you what I would eat?
Sure. What would be your favorite item to eat?
Pizza.
Oh, I forgot about pizza. We just had that the other night. I can do that. What's your favorite toppings on pizza?
I have two, sausage and pepperoni.
Okay. Do you like olives?
Yeah.
Because I like pepperoni and olives.
I like black olives more than green.
Oh, yeah. On pizza, you can't do green olives on pizza. No.
Nope. Ew.
That would not be good.
My mom made pizza from scratch, by the way. She did black olives.
Oh, black olives, yeah.
Yeah. I thought green would be ew.
Yeah, green would not taste too good. A little too much vinegar in it.
Fine, Mom. What are some of your interests outside of work?
Going to concerts. I love going to see live music.
Oh. Yeah. Who have you seen?
We just recently saw, it's a program put on for kind of classical music, but they play current music, and it's put on by Fever Productions. And so this time they did Coldplay, and so it's a set of two violinists, a person playing a viola, and a person playing a cello, and they did all of the cool Coldplay songs, and so that was really cool. Before that, during the summer, we saw Zac Brown Band. We saw Foo Fighters. Who else have we seen? That was it this year. Offspring. Saw Offspring with my son. And so, a bunch of cool bands.
Can I ask you how many children you've got?
I have two.
Two?
Yep.
Two boys?
Two boys.
Girls?
Two boys, yep.
What is your background?
It's a long, winding road to get here. And so I started off working my way through college, doing restaurant work, waiting tables and bartending. And then in graduate school, I started doing ABA therapy with young children diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder.
What's ABA?
Applied Behavioral Analysis. And so I worked for a provider of Regional Center of Orange County at that time, and we did the in-home therapy for the children 3 to 6 years old. And so I did that for about a year and a half, and then I went to work for the school districts through a special education local plan area, and that's an association that oversees special education services over several school districts. And so in that job, I designed in-home programming and organized the in-home programming for the young children, kind of like a program manager, they call them these days. And then once I did that, I still in graduate school, and then I ended up at Regional Center. Basically, my decision to move to a Regional Center was due to my commute. I was working in North Orange County, and I was young, moved to South Orange County to buy my first home back in the late 90s when everything was a little more affordable than they are today. And at that point, it was just too much of a commute for the pay. And so I heard from my boss at the time at the CELPA that the Regional Center was hiring, and she had a good friend that was the chief operating officer there. and she recommended that I call her up and go apply, and that was 25 years ago.
25 years
Yeah,
ago.
yeah. I started off as a service coordinator at Regional Center of Orange County, then worked my way up to supervisor of early start programs, did that for 7 years, and then I did management of service coordination teams for, God, how many years was that? Like 14 years approximately. And so I went from an office of having 40 service coordinators to an office of over 130 service coordinators, and then was made the director of case management support services and then associate executive director. And at that time, I decided to leave Regional Center of Orange County, and I came to Harbor Regional Center as the director of adult services. And shortly thereafter, the prior executive director, Pat Delmonico, she announced her retirement. And then COVID happened. And we didn't get to know each other too much at that time, but Pat Delmonico was a wonderful lady, and I learned a lot from her, and she taught me a lot about how to run a regional center, and I'm hoping I'm doing her proud in her stead at Harbor Regional Center.
I'm sure you are.
I hope so.
Oh, Faye, you mentioned COVID?
Yes.
It wrecked everybody's livelihoods.
Yeah, it really did. It changed the world, and we're still feeling the effects. I know from the programs we see, in place and how individuals want to interface with the programs. Some individuals still want to do some things remotely, and then programs still want to provide services remotely. It's been a challenge to get everything back to pre-COVID, and I don't think it's going to happen. People keep trying to go that direction, but I don't think it's going to happen because the world changed, and it opened up new opportunities. Even at Harbor Regional Center, prior to COVID, we did not do any type of remote work. Now we have staff on remote work schedules where like 40% of the time they may be working at home, and that can never go back. First of all, we don't have enough office space with the growth we've had over the last couple of years, but it's just become an expectation of the staff, and really kind of a benefit that we're allowed to offer the staff to help recruit qualified individuals. So I don't think it's going to go back, and I kind of hope it doesn't, because it was a little bit different and a little too constrictive.
About 3-4 years ago, I was COVID man, and I walked COVID right out of the stratosphere.
Good. I'm glad you did that.
Can I show you my pose that I did?
Sure, I'd love to see it.
That was COVID man.
That's very superhero-ish.
Yeah. Since then, seems like COVID quieted down.
Every time I went through a new cycle, it seemed to get weaker and weaker and weaker. It's still there, but it seems to be more in line with some of the more common cold type of symptoms. Yeah. Although, from what I understand, it can still seriously affect people with compromised immune systems or maybe elderly individuals, kind of like cold and flu season does as well, too.
Why did you choose to work with those with disabilities?
I'm not quite sure how I initially became interested in it. I remember when I was in my first couple years of college, I was in developmental psychology, and we had to do a long report for our end of the year project. And I chose autism at that time. And this is in late 80s, early 90s. And there was not a lot of information on autism that was readily available. And the internet wasn't around at that time. And I had to do a lot of research to really find out about what was going on with the diagnosis of autism, the current treatments for children and individuals with autism. And literally, it was a major project. I had to go to multiple universities to find the information: UCLA, UCR, UCI, Cal State Long Beach, trying to just find it. And it was not as readily available as I thought. But that project really kind of started pushing me down this path. And then it kind of sat in the background a little bit. I was working on my degree in psychology at that time as well. And then once I was in graduate school, we were in a class. It was a group therapy class where you practice running group therapy programs and stuff. And an individual that was in the class with me, she was a manager at a program I eventually wound up working at, and she just broke down crying about how loaded they were on work. There were so many children that needed help, and she described what she did, and it sounded wonderful, getting in there with the homes, in the homes, working with the children individually and helping them achieve a better life for themselves. And after the class, I went and talked to her and asked her if there was a way I can go work with her. And she said, come on over, apply. And eventually ended up getting the job. Worked with her for about a year and a half. And then I ended up getting the job in the school district, like I mentioned earlier. And I had to pick. I couldn't work at both places because it was a little bit of a conflict of interest. And so I decided to work at the school district at that time. And again, this was late 90s when there was not a lot of in-home programming going on for children with autism. And school districts were very reticent to fund for these services. And it was a lot of fights that occurred. The families had to really fight for the services. It just dragged me in. I just loved it. I loved seeing the progress the children were making, the individual therapy. I loved running the programs. I loved seeing the impact the families, the improvement in the life of the child and in the life of the family, because it really made a huge difference. And from there on out, I ended up at Regional Center. And at that time, I think regional centers, and some still do, they don't have the best reputation in the community. And one of the things I really wanted to do was get in there at the regional center and help improve the reputation by being more person-centered, by meeting the families where they're at. I saw what was happening in the family's home from a provider side, from the educational side. And I knew when I got over to Regional Center, I could really help change how regional centers interacted with the families and the individuals they served. And I was just hooked. I loved Regional Center. I think they have a great culture and of supporting their staff, just like we support our families and the community. And it just was a great fit for me. And I've been there for going on 25 years now. So
now with me, I have cerebral palsy, and you mentioned autism. When a person is born, how did they know what disability they have when they're born?
I think each child walks a different path. There's some diagnoses that are based upon genetics, some that are based upon more of a medical condition. And so cerebral palsy is one of those diagnoses that's a little bit easier, I believe, for doctors to diagnose. Now, again, cerebral palsy is more of a spectrum disorder. It could be minimally impacting an individual's life, or it could be severely impacting an individual's life. There's other diagnoses such as autism. They're not readily evident at birth. And so as you're going along, the child's developing, and from my history, I've heard a lot of stories, and I've seen some children that have come along and they were developing very normally. There might have been some, interesting behavioral episodes, but like lack of eye contact, but usually around 18 months to 20 months, that's when individuals with autism really start to be more readily identified. They're not developing language as quickly as other children. They may not be developing reciprocal play and reciprocal interactions as other children would. But that's usually about the time. And then typically you wait till they're 2.5 to 3 before you formally diagnose, just to make sure that you're not unduly labeling a child. You don't want to put a label of autism on a child when it's not, may not be the accurate diagnosis. And so we tend to wait till they're a little bit older.
Now, with me, the only thing that I have trouble with is pronouncing some of my letters. I found out from my brother recently, and my doctor could have been doing it at birth. There's a piece of skin that's preventing me from touching the roof of my mouth.
Okay. Is it the frenum? Under the tongue?
Yeah.
Yep.
I cannot pronounce. I cannot say words that starts with the letter L.
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like N.
Okay.
And TH on me sound like the letter F.
Okay. Yeah, everybody, again, cerebral palsy is a spectrum disorder. It can be very mild. It could be severely impactful where you're quadriplegic, where you're not able to walk or, move your lower or upper torso. And so it does get to be quite the challenge when it's very minor and has minor impact on an individual. Some individuals with CP that are very minorly affected may not qualify for services for regional center these days. Probably when you were made eligible or went through the eligibility process years ago, it may have been one major life area we looked at. Now they have to look at two major life areas. And so it could be your capacity for independent living, communication, motor skills. It's a little bit tougher. They raised the bar just a little bit to allow people to be made eligible.
And my mom, she is the person that worked with me before I started school. She encouraged me to watch Sesame Street and Mr. Watts' Neighborhood, and she got me an alphabet board with all my letters.
Yep. Yeah. Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers, and a lot of the children's shows that are created today, they're really designed to help children work on their speech production skills and reading skills. And so they want to get a lot of those skills right in front of the children. Parents are busier than ever these days. Most parents are most families are having to have both mom and dad work full time, and sometimes, unfortunately, TV has taken a larger role, I believe, in a lot of children's lives, and so they've really tried to make the programs more educationally based so that they can learn and have that kind of development.
Will you explain what Harbor Regional Center is?
Sure. Harbor Regional Center is one of 21 agencies that contract with the state of California to provide funding for services for individuals with developmental disabilities. Basically, back in the 60s and 70s, the Lanterman Act was passed, and the state divided the state up into 21 geographic areas. At that time, it was based upon having a population of 1 million. And so if LA had approximately 7 million people in it back at that time, and so they made 7 regional centers in LA County. Orange County had approximately 1 million. There's one Orange County Regional Center. San Diego had approximately 1, and 1 million, or no, 2 million, or actually 1 million, and there's one San Diego Regional Center. And so they divided the state up that way. The services were really designed to help maintain individuals in their home versus going into a developmental center. So as you may recall, back in the 50s and 60s, and even in the 70s, developmental centers were an option for placement for your loved one that was born with a developmental disability. And it was kind of the go-to back in the 50s and 60s. The doctors would say, you're not going to be able to get support. You're not going to be able to maintain your child in your home. Here's a state developmental center. We recommend you place your child there. And a lot of families did back in the 50s and 60s. And the state and the community really pushed back. Actually, the community really pushed back in the 60s, saying, we want more for our loved ones. And that kind of led to the creation of the Lanterman Act. We want to have a better life. We want to maintain our children with us. We don't want to put them in a cold facility. And if you've been to a developmental center, they're a step above one flew over the cuckoo's nest. You had a lot of wonderful professionals there, but it was very cold and very isolating for the individuals. And so regional centers came into being to provide services to the individuals in the home. And the great thing is, the services have continued to expand over the years through various lawsuits that families had to push. Just like I mentioned, when I joined the school district and the programs I worked with, families were fighting for services. It's been a continuous battle to fight for services. And the families are always pushing the state and the regional centers to expand the service capacity and service options for their loved ones. And it's wonderful. We get stuck in what the law says today, and we create our systems around what the law says. And families go, okay, that's great, but I want more. I want more. And the laws are always just a little bit behind what the families are wanting for their loved ones or what the individuals want for themselves. And so it's an interesting time to be in the regional center system. There's been a lot of changes, especially over the last couple of years, where a lot of the desires of the individuals and the families have been recognized and finally recognized by the state, and they've put a lot of money into the system over the last couple of years to lower caseload reduction, to expand services, especially in the social recreational area. And it's been fun working through the problems all that additional money brings, from trying to get vendors back on board, identify services, create new service models, create new funding models to pay for this. It's been fun, but challenging at the same time. And so I think that's where we're at.
Are these operationals in all over the country?
No, only in California.
Only in California.
Yeah, California is very unique. We are the only state in the country with an entitlement system. And so if you're born here or you walk in the door and you meet the eligibility criteria, you are eligible for services. And once your IFSP for children under the age of 3 or your IPP is in place, we are obligated to fund those services to help meet your needs. Other states may have wait lists. I know that some states have wait lists of up to 10 years. And so if you go to another state, you might walk in and you might have to wait for somebody to pass away before a slot opens up for you.
Really?
Yeah. Yep. We have a lot of families that will move out of state and then they go, wait, we can't get services, and they come back.
That's a shame. Crying shame.
Yes. Well, California made the decision in the 60s when they created the Lanterman Act to really support individuals with developmental disabilities living in the community. We see, and the state has committed that there are children. Why should we send them to a state developmental center? Same thing with even at Harbor Regional Center over the last couple of years. It's our children. Why we've developed some new houses, our new type of homes that can manage individuals with significant behavioral needs or individuals with significant medical needs. Prior to the last couple of years, if we had an individual that needed that type of service, we may have to look to other regional centers to help meet that need because we did not develop those resources. But in the last couple of years, we determined that our loved ones have the needs in our own community. Let's develop the resources here so that we can keep the individual closer to their family. Families can go visit more frequently versus making it a major trip up to Northern California or Central California. It's been a big change in philosophy over the last couple of years.
I mean, shouldn't other states get on board?
I think each state does their best with what their legislators are able to authorize, and so it's a serious expense the state has committed to by continuing to fund the regional centers, and it's always an issue that the entitlement system is always under threat within the state of California. There's a lot of individual groups out there that want us to be more uniform, like a healthcare plan where it's like, here's your menu of services. And that really takes away the person-centered philosophy that regional centers operate under. Other states can't operate under that. They operate under Medicaid waiver guidelines, and that's it. While we operate under Medicaid waiver guidelines and a significant portion of our funding comes in from the federal government, the state of California is committed to additional funding to allow us to meet the needs of the individuals, even if it's not a Medicaid waiver qualifying service.
What goals would you like to see in the community in the future?
I'd like to see the community embrace their power. We're in a state that is, all states are politically driven, at the top level, right? And all our funding is politically driven. And the families and the individuals we serve really need to understand their power. We have Grassroots Day coming up where we go lobby the legislators in March of 2025. And it's one chance for us to get them to hear our voice. But I think our community really needs to understand that we're huge. We are the individuals. We have over 400,000 individuals in the state of California served by a regional center. That's think about as big as the city of Long Beach, from my understanding. And so they need to understand their power and reach out to their legislators and their local representatives and let their voice be heard. Let them know we are here. That is my biggest goal for our community. Be empowered to let the legislators know that you are here, that we cannot let the entitlement of our system go away, and that to continuously look at how we can improve our services and not just listen to specific advocacy groups that may have a louder bullhorn than others do, because some are very self-interested and not trying to serve the greater good.
What do you wish more people knew about this field?
All the amazing opportunities in it. Really, it's regional centers and our whole world that we operate in here. We touch upon every aspect of human services. And so whether you're at regional center doing case management or other roles within the regional center, working for a provider, we are bringing the greatest of ourselves to our jobs when we do these roles. And the impact we have on individuals' lives is just dramatic. I think more so than anything else, even more so than teachers. Teachers, you may remember a teacher like this teacher was wonderful. We have individuals that we're serving for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. You may still have the same service coordinator, the same staff for 10, 15, 20 years. And the impact you can make on an individual's life is just profound. You literally become a part of their family. And I think if more individuals knew this, I think we'd have a lot more people screaming to get in this field. Just the state needs to start paying us what we need to get paid so we can actually attract staff, because we have a lot of wonderful individuals in our community that go, I need to make rent. The programs you have are paying X dollar amount. Here's a fast food job. And that's been a battle over the last couple of years, trying to fight back against that, because it's like, fast food, while valuable, I don't see the impact on human lives like our work does. So I think if we could get that message out there, get it up to the legislators where they can actually recognize that, fund our services as best we can, I think it would make this world a better place.
Well, thank you very much for letting me have this opportunity to talk to you.
Well, you're very welcome, Brian, and very nice to meet you. And we got to do this again. This was kind of fun. So.
Me too.
And this has been me interviewing Patrick Ruby interview. Thanks for listening, and tune in again next time.
I hope you enjoyed this installment of Heartbeat Radio. For more information, please go to our website, ableartwork.org.